Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us. Welcome to our webinar on Introduction to Early Childhood Education, the Instructor Guide. My name is Ashley Montenegro Ramirez. I use she, her, ella pronouns, and I am one of the grant managers. I also have my team here. I'll let them introduce themselves, and then I'll proceed with the land acknowledgement. I'll do an overview, and then I'll hand it over to our amazing presenters. So, my Open ProfTech team, if you want to introduce yourselves and your role.
Yeah, I can go first. Hi, everyone, and good morning. My name is Kaylee Cruz, and I'm the program specialist for this project. Our team at the State Board and the faculty authors have been working on this textbook for quite some time now, so we're super excited for you to be able to experience it. All right, Monique.
I'm Monique Belair. I was the project manager for the first part of this grant, and then handed off to Ashley to do an incredible job of tying everything up. So it's particularly exciting to me to be able to pop in here at the end and see this finished work. It's really exciting. I'm glad to see all the faces again.
Hey, and so I will start us off with a land acknowledgement. As a step forward, honoring truth and achieving healing and reconciliation, we open today by acknowledging the traditional territories of the Squaxin Island tribe of the South Puget Sound. The people of the Squaxin Island tribe lived and prospered along the shores of the southernmost inlets of the Salish Sea for untold centuries. We acknowledge throughout the time immemorial the people of the Squaxin Island tribe's strong culture connection with the water and traditionally known as the people of the water. Today, we honor the descendants of the Squaxin Island tribe, the people of the water on which Washington State Board of Community and Technical Colleges office resides. While our colleges are distributed across many First Peoples nations, we remain dedicated to opening our time together by honoring those that came before us. We know that such statements only become truly meaningful when coupled with authentic relationships and sustained commitment, and as such, we commit to continued efforts to build our collective understanding and action to foster authentic tribal community connections. And I would like to ask, how do you support or work in partnership and collaboration with your local tribal communities? You can reflect on this question or paste in the chat how you support or work in partnership. Um, for example, I make an effort to shop locally and support Indigenous vendors by attending local markets, or I also purchase from some of my immediate cousins that are from Indigenous descent, and I purchased my cousin's really cool beaded earrings. And then my cousin also does fishing, so I also support wherever he sells his fish, some salmon. It's really cool stuff. So you can reflect on that question um, for your Thursday morning. And next slide, please, Kaylee. Okay, so we'll start us off with explaining the project, and then I'm going to hand it over to our amazing presenters. This is a statewide initiative to reduce textbook costs by creating free, high quality open textbooks for high demand professional technical programs in Washington's community college. We were funded by the Department of Education, FIPSE 2021 and 2023. The project brings together faculty, designers, librarians, and editors to ensure content is accessible, compliant, and classroom ready. Um, all our textbooks are openly licensed. They have been enhanced with supplementary materials. We have quiz banks and H5P interactive quizzes. You'll just have to stick along with us to see what they look like. I'm super excited for you all to see it. It's really amazing. They were professionally edited, ensuring accuracy and we have high editorial standard, which is amazing. So we're really doing top-notch textbooks, and they have been designed to meet accessible guidelines. We've done all our due diligences and I've gone through so many processes to get to this endpoint. And I'm gonna hand it, oh, and then a shameless plug for our OER 101 course that will be starting September 8th through the 22nd. I'll paste it in the chat in case you want to register. With just kind of our releasement of this textbook. I think it really aligns. And then I'm handing it over to our amazing presenters.
Hi, I can introduce myself first and then I'll have Angela introduce herself. Hi, everyone. It's nice to see some familiar names and faces for those who do have your camera on. You don't have to have it on. Do whatever you need to do to stay comfortable. My name is Ninderjit Gill, and I am an instructor that teaches at North Seattle College in their associate's program as well as their bachelor's program. I also do a little bit of coordination, and I also teach at a few other community colleges. And I was one of the authors for the first textbook and also this next one, or this one that we're going to be sharing with all of you today. Angela, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yep, sorry, just getting for going for the unmute. Good morning, everybody. My name is Angela Blums, and I'm faculty at Pierce College. And like Ninderjit, I teach in our associates as well as our bachelor's program, and was author on the first version of this textbook as well as the second, the one we're going to present today. And we're both really thrilled to be able to share this work with you today. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, and I think, like Ashley said, there was a lot of due diligence done with this and the first textbook and this one. And there's a lot of things that we're excited about and just how accessible it is. And so I think you'll enjoy hearing about that as well. So this is our overview. This is our plan for today. We'll talk a little bit about the authors. We'll have the goals and objectives. I think one of the things that we're really excited about is, touring the chapter, but also like just the features in the press book. And so we'll share a few of those, and then also a sample lesson plan. And then, we'll have some things that you might have to look out for, especially anytime when it comes to using textbooks and working with students. So just some of the challenges that you'll face. So that's our plan for today. And I think we can move on to the next slide.
Okay, so that's me. So the authors of the text are listed here. All the authors were faculty at community and technical colleges across the state of Washington, and all of the authors have been in the early childhood profession for decades. So we brought a lot of experience to the table when writing this book. And I think we have a slide all about that, so I won't jump into all that as a feature quite yet, but our names are listed here. Gail Julian was the project coordinator who led us through this project. And I won't read everybody's names, but we're listed here in our affiliate colleges as well.
And I do think we have one of our other authors here, Ardeen. I thought I saw Ardeen pop in. Yeah.
We had a great team, a wonderful team of authors.
It was. And a lot of collaboration. But again, we'll talk more about that too. And this is the goals and the objectives. So the course was built around ECED 105, Introduction to Early Childhood Education, which is a common course in the state of Washington. So if anyone's here from outside of Washington, that's where the course goals and objectives and just most of the content came from. And these are all of the course objectives. And we had chapters that sort of represented each of these course objectives. One of the things that I do want to note is none of these objectives specifically center diversity, equity, or inclusion, but something that we all decided as authors was that we wanted to have a standalone chapter that focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I also want to note that DEI was infused in most of these chapters, or all of the chapters too, but it was important to us that we name it and center it, and give it, have its separate chapter to really sort of understand culturally appropriate, care, and also thinking more deeply about how that impacts children's development and how it shows up in early childhood education. But these are the course outcomes for ECED 105 and how we framed the textbook. Next slide.
Okay, so who is this text for? Ninderjit and I did a lot of thinking when we were preparing these slides, and the first thing I jumped to is educators who are teaching ECED and 105 in Washington State, as that was kind of our first group who we thought this book was targeted toward. And as we thought about it a little bit more, we thought, well, and educators is a broad term. That's teachers, that's directors, that's paraeducators, it's any level of individuals working with young children. But we thought, as we've worked with this textbook for a couple of years now, the content of this textbook is applicable to courses in all different areas of early childhood, including child development, observation and assessment classes, diversity classes, guidance behavior, leadership in early childhood education. And one thing that that Ninderjit actually thought of this morning was, what about leadership in early childhood education? What about center directors or supervisors using chunks or the entirety of the textbook to formulate staff trainings, or just as sections stand alone, can be really, really useful to train new staff or to engage in different kinds of PD activities. So as you can see, a wide range of target audiences for the text.
And yeah, so it's exciting to see how this textbook can be used outside of the classroom. And I think that's a really important um, thing to be thinking about, especially sort of those who don't go to college and may not take these classes or may have taken it a while ago. They get this current and foundational information freely. So that's another thing about this textbook that really sets it apart. It is openly licensed textbook, and it is ultimately it is free. And if anybody has taught 105 or any of the, the foundational courses for the initial certificate, and even some of the general certificate courses as well too, textbooks are really expensive. You're not going to find one of the intro texts to ECE less than $100. And I think this is really what this book does, this textbook does, is it really provides access um, and readily, available for those who may not be able to afford it. And it's also, I think, another really key important thing. It's, framed around Washington State. We intentionally aligned it with the Washington State core competencies. It's around, centering ECED 105 course objectives. And that's more state level, but we also looked at NACE standards as well too. So it does have this national sort of perspective as well too on early learning, especially when we're introducing concepts that might not just, fit in statewide, but also you can look at them nationally as well too. And this is what Angela alluded to earlier. This is also another key part of this textbook, and I think it really does set it apart from other textbooks in early childhood education. It's just contextualized by us as the authors. Some of us come in, a lot of us come in with experience being in a classroom as a teacher, as a director, and now as educators. And so we're able to sort of integrate that expertise, that knowledge, the skills into this textbook as well too, and to think about all the roles that we've had and how it can be integrated into a textbook. And I think that's very, very valuable for students to know that, hey, this isn't just somebody that has never been in a classroom. This isn't written by AI or, a ghostwriter or anything like that. It's people who are actually part of the early childhood education field and system in Washington State. And I think that's really important because we know what teachers are experiencing. And I think that comes across in the textbook as well, too. Still my turn.
You.
Drum roll,
Yeah, I think so.
please. I know. Da-da-da-da-da. Okay, now we get to look at an actual chapter. And we decided to share chapter 7 because we're going to share a lesson plan that's framed around chapter 7. But please know, even though that we're sharing this lesson plan, there's so many other ways that you can, there's so many other chapters that you can explore as well too. So I am going to pull up the chapter for you. Please be patient with me as I work on this because I did get a new computer. Here we go. So I know we'll share a link of the Pressbook later, but for now, this is sort of where you'll go when you get the link. And this is the front page, and you can download the book, and there's different ways you can download it, but this is usually how I just share it with students, and they come to this place, and this is just a little bit about the project. You come to the contents, and you can see the navigation bar here on the left, and it shares all of the chapters, and then a few other key pieces here in appendices, like glossaries, more about the authors, and additional resources as well too. And I'll just be real quick here. You can see in chapter 1, so there's sections, and we'll talk a little bit more about the way the Pressbook is set up in sections. It's really valuable to be able to take things out and to use what you need and not have students read more than they need to. And then let me get to chapter 7. This is the value of play, and Dr. Karshner wrote this chapter. And so students just have to, or you, if you're wanting to get some additional information, you just have to click on this section and it will take you right there. And here you go. And so you start to, you see the content. And what's interesting about it too is that you get these pop-ups here for definitions. So these are specific glossary terms that we called out that we felt like was important just in our experience of teaching some of this content. And you can see each time if a student clicks on this, you can see the definition for it as well too. And as you scroll down, and I think something that Dr. Karshner did really well was, embed stories in this. And that's something you'll see is like a lot of that our professional personal perspective integrated into the textbook as well. And this is also really cool that students get a chance to do knowledge checks right away. So it's not like after you read the chapter, but it's immediate for them. And so after they read this, they'll have a quick little knowledge check and they can do it right away. And so let's just say this is false. And then you get to check, it's correct. And if students want to retry, they can do that as well too. And I'll just take you to the next thing. And then, you can just move along to the next sections by clicking at the bottom here. And you can see again, here are some of the definitions that pop out. Dr. Karshner also referenced other chapters to continue thinking about what she might be sharing in this chapter. And another thing you can, that some of the chapters have as well too, is these links go to different chapters, but these links will also go to different web pages as well too, to continue the learning or to continue to build on what we might have shared in the chapter. And I think that's also important to think through. And here's another knowledge check right after students read it. Here's something a little bit fun for them to do and to check and see what they're learning and having that immediate feedback. And this is what Ashley referred to as H5P. And some of the chapters will also have reflection questions, and we'll also share tips and facts, and we'll share more about that later as well. But I just want to get to the conclusion so you can see what that looks like. And here's the conclusion. There's this quick little summary, and then every chapter will also have these review questions. So this is another opportunity for students to sort of reflect on what they've learned and for you to say, hey, answer all the questions or answer 3 of the questions and pick out what you think would be important. And we'll share a little bit more of how you can make this even more applicable and specific to the students that you're working with, because maybe you're working with students who just work with preschoolers. So you have a chance to sort of ask more targeted and focused questions based on the students. But this is a great place to start after students review the chapter. Yeah. I think we're going to move on to the next slide.
Okay, so this next section here are 5 things that we thought would be instructional features to leverage. So sort of some assets that this text offers. And the first one is, I think Ninderjit talked about this a little bit before, but it has intentional alignment with standards. So it aligns with Washington State core competencies as well as NAEYC standards. So we know that instruction can be grounded in state and national benchmarks. I'll leave it at that for the next slide.
This is a really fun feature. This is where I feel like the magic can happen as well too. It's buffet style. And so I haven't taught 105 in a while, but how I use the textbook in some of the other courses I use is like, as you can see, when we did the tour, you can see there's sections of the chapter that you can pull out and use and to sort of share current research. And so I connect it with some of the stuff that I might be reading now about children's development, and how do I get that connected to just one of the sections that Angela has written in her chapter. So I feel like it's really valuable. And this is also where I feel like if you're teaching a course on, you know, for example, if you're teaching a course on guidance, there's a whole chapter that's on guidance, but if you have different perspectives and different ideas that you want to bring in, you can pick and choose which ones you want to pull in there as well too. So it's so customizable, and we'll talk more about that, but I really appreciate the fact that a student doesn't have to read the whole chapter. They can read sections in 3 different chapters to sort of get a picture of what's happening. And I'll share an example a little later of what that can look like.
And just, I think I want to make a comment on that, maybe that buffet style structure too, is that um, the format that this textbook offers in the Pressbooks platform really lends itself nicely to that. And we were just, before we started this webinar, just kind of seeing how it looked on our phones. And maybe we can talk more about this later if we want, but a lot of students do engage with course content on their phones. And I, as an instructor, have spent years asking students to not do this and to read a paper textbook cover to cover. And I understand that's kind of an old-fashioned view of things. And I haven't found a great way to be able to overcome that and meet students. You know, I have tried as an instructor, but this format and this platform has kind of won me over as somebody who prefers paper textbooks, and to be able to say, like, read this section, the navigation is a lot different and a lot easier and just more student focused. So just want to throw that in there as well. Then I'll read my assigned slide after that. Okay, so it's diverse, equity-centered content threads. So we did mention before that we tried to weave in EDI throughout the text, and each author demonstrated this commitment in their own way, dependent on the content that we have. And then we do have a section that is focused on equity, diversity, and inclusion. And so I think that shows up in reflective prompts and themes, and can really lend itself well to lesson planning moving forward with this textbook.
Oh yeah, and this is with any Creative Commons, you know, freely licensed our OER textbook. We can really adapt it. We can, you know, make it more accessible, but we have real options to sort of create something that's unique to what we might need, and we don't have to ask for permission. And so I think that's really exciting, and I think that sort of gives us a certain amount of freedom to co-create materials with students. And again, we'll talk more about that later. And as Angela mentioned, and as as we shared with the tour, that the chapter can be really interactive and customizable to what we need and what we feel like would be most valuable in that lesson that we might be teaching, and to really sort of target and intentionally focus learning for the students as well too. But it's really nice to be able to have something that you don't have to always, you cite, but you can also sort of manipulate and question, and to focus on and change it a little bit.
Okay, and then one feature that lends itself, kind of demonstrates the integrity of this textbook, is that author bios and peer review have been completed. It's here in the thing, and I think we've talked about this already, but all of our authors have extensive experience in the classroom, in this profession, and they bring that real world insight to the work that they've delivered here.
Okay, so this was something that we wanted there's a few things that we wanted to call out, and some of them you did not see in the chapter that we toured, so we're going to sort of specifically call them out here. And there's reflection boxes in most of the chapters. And this, again, is prompts where students can sort of take time to deeply reflect on what they might have read already. And this is a prompt from the DEI chapter. And so it was after reading something around social identities, and sort of getting them to pause and to take that moment to just, reflect on these questions. And these can be used by instructors in the classroom, right? It doesn't have to be something that students do just on their own. So there's an opportunity to use these questions as a way to, continue learning if you're doing a virtual classroom, and not just, just something that students do on their own. It could be also discussion board questions that you could use as well too. So there's lots of ways that you can use these reflective questions to sort of really have students take a deep dive in the content. And as noted, these are the questions that we've used as instructors. And that's why, again, making this textbook so relevant is that we've integrated what's worked for us as instructors and what questions and what focuses we've taken and what content we've shared that we've integrated into this as well too.
Yeah, I love that part about it, is that a lot of times we've like tried these discussion questions on our discussion boards and had success with them and decided to include them in our chapters. All right, so the second type of call out is little fact boxes. A lot of texts have these. And so this is one that is myth versus fact, just to kind of break up the text blocks, blocks of texts in the chapter. And so this one is about, this is just an example, and we thought we would screenshot it to just kind of give you a realistic picture of like what a myth fact or a fact call out would look like in the text. And so the myth is that infants need lots of fancy toys and products to help them learn. And then the fact talks about how sensitive, attentive caregiving is much more important than materials in early learning.
I should just leave myself unmuted. Here's
Yeah.
another great call out as well too. There's tips, and some of the chapters will have these tips in here as well too. And then again, this just supports students in thinking about like, what does it look like in my actual practice, right? How can I apply this? And so the tips can give real more information or ideas and application-based strategies that students can use as well in their practice. And one of the things I want to note on this tip, it is about ACEs, but this link here, this hyperlink here, it will actually take you to the University of Washington Center for Child and Family Wellbeing. So I think that's also immediate, right? A student can immediately go there and sort of look through it. And it's not this other link that they have to go to. And I think that's really important for learning, right? It's going to happen for students right then and there. And I think that's another real plus with the Pressbook or the textbook is that students don't have to wait. There's not the link immediately takes them to where they need to go, and they're not asking us for the link or it's broken or something like that. And so I really appreciate that. But with the tips, it's just another way for students to really sort of integrate that knowledge into their practice or into their just how they're thinking about what we've shared.
Yeah, and those links are another one of the things that won me over on the Pressbooks platform. Okay, what are we talking about next? We're talking about customization. So I think we've included maybe 3 teaching tips here in this next section. So the first one's customization. It's designed for flexibility, so instructors can tailor the content to the audience, to their teaching goals. You can customize chapters with case studies, simulations, role plays, or videos. You can embed quizzes or comprehension directly into Pressbooks, or you can use Canvas. And actually coming up, I think Ashley said that it was okay to mention this, that for instructors who are using Canvas, there are quiz banks that will become available that were created by the authors of the text as well. So those will be handy, I think. I've been using them. Let's see, what else? We have real world observation. You can do interview tasks. Like we've mentioned before, the chapters can be buffet style, and the prompts at the end that connect to current research issues and trends.
Okay, I'm excited about this because I think it sort of follows along with Angela shared too, just this idea of customization. And again, to really center DEI in the content, and especially for us in Washington State, art across the US, I guess, students do not look the same that they did that are coming into our classroom 20, 30 years ago. So I think the textbook really honors that diversity as well too. But you can even take a deeper dive by having specific equity reflections. And an example that I have that I use in one of my BAS classes is I take a section from the child development class where Angela has written around, developmentally appropriate practices and also wrote about developmental domains. So those 2 sections students would read. And then they also read the brain development section. And then I share a reading from the Harvard Center of the Developing Child about how racism impacts children's development. And so I have them sort of connect that content together, saying like, what are we learning about this? What else is happening with children's development that's, situated in, their context and their community and their experiences. So this from general to this very narrow perspective, an important perspective. So I think there's so many opportunities in these chapters using the sections to think through, from an equity centered lens. The other piece that I share too in another class is just a history of early childhood education, and for us to think about what's missing. And I partner that up with Race Forward's website, where they go through, how schools were started, right? Religious, just the taxing system and segregation and slavery and indigenous, boarding schools. So think kind of bringing those things together. What's missing? What do we still need to learn about? And so I think the potential to sort of extend what students need to understand around equity-centered early childhood education is really powerful with this textbook, and sort of enhance what we've already sort of started. And so you could definitely build on that. And again, you can always ask questions like, after reading something in the environment, if there's an environment chapter too. I haven't done this, but I've looked at the environment chapter. It's like, what biases do you see in the classroom? Like, how is the environment set up for neurodiverse children? How is it not set up for neurodiverse children? So you have a potential to ask really specific questions based on what students are reading and based on what you really want them to sort of think about when it comes to equity-centered early childhood education.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about this before, but student co-creation and augmentation, because it's an OER, the remix capabilities are a little bit more available than in a classic textbook. It's openly licensed. You can adapt it. You can modify with student input. Some of the examples that Ninderjit was just giving, you could take some of that and then have students sort of combine this content, and like I could envision like, how would you rewrite this section given now what you've read from the center, Harvard Center of the Developing Child, or whatever external resource you choose to include. So students can find ways to co-create. So like leading chapter reviews, contribute examples from their own communities. This is just the customizability of it is bliss, really.
And this, I think, is also another valuable resource from an OER. We did this with the first one, at least at North, and we shared it out as well too. We did translate the first textbook into Spanish. And there is this potential to do with this, hopefully we can do this with this Pressbook as well too, to offer the readings in different languages. So at North, we're hoping, I think we did translate it in Arabic, but we also offer classes in Somali. I know some other campuses do as well too. So I think there's just real potential with OER textbooks, and with this one as well too, especially here in Washington State, to have it offered in other languages. And I think that's really important that we think about that.
Okay, so I wanted to share a sample lesson plan that I used, or that I use when I'm teaching with this resource. Sorry, I'm just pulling it up and I will share it now. So this just kind of walks through how I use a section of this textbook to deliver a lesson, like a weekly lesson chunk in the Intro to Early Childhood Education class. So it starts with, it's coming from chapter 7, the value of play from Intro to ECE. And so the lesson explores the value of play in early childhood education, just a little lesson overview here. And then the learning objectives are listed here. Like by the end of the unit, what are the students going to be able to do? What are their tangible capabilities, competencies that we would expect they would learn if upon successful completion of these learning activities? And so I would want them to identify the 3 components of play, list and describe 6 types of play, analyze a play scenario for each developmental domain, and illustrate one way in which children are learning. and then identify and describe 3 categories of common challenges some children experience at play. And these learning objectives are pulled from this chapter. And so how I structure this lesson is a 2-parter. First, deliver sort of the content. And in my classes that are online, I have a video lecture. And so the video lecture includes PowerPoint that I created. But also, I think that we will have, since our authors have created PowerPoints that go along with all these chapters, which will also be released at some point from Ashley or our good folks at the state board. That would also be available if people didn't want to make their own PowerPoint. But that's what I do, is I have a video lecture. And so I kind of deliver all of that content that's from the chapter or whatever extra stuff that I think is important or relevant to include. And then part 2 are the tasks. So what are the students expected to complete to get, to do the learning? And so the first thing is read chapter 7. I do assign the whole chapter for this because it is the intro to ECE class. So I'm not breaking apart section by section. For this one, I find it valuable for them to read the whole chapter in its entirety. And then they participate in an online discussion or an in-class discussion if I'm teaching the class in person in a grounded format. And then the third thing is they complete an assignment, and that's the play poster. So I'll just show you what the discussion and the play poster look like, just to kind of see it come to life a little bit. So the discussion prompt that I use is, you hear a policymaker say there's too much play in ECE programs. Play is nothing but cute nonsense. They need to focus on academics. Surprisingly, even now in 2025, we still have folks that are saying, the focus on play is too heavy, or it could be too heavy. Please focus more on academics, get them ready for kindergarten, yada, yada, yada. Experts know that that's actually detrimental to kids' development. So that's what we would have learned in this chapter. And so this person might say the kids should be learning more. And then the reflection is, what is your response? Given what you've learned in the lecture and the reading, how do you go on beyond your opinion and use evidence from what you've learned in the lecture and in the text to support your answer? And this kind of is a real life scenario that might happen. And this is a policymaker, but it could be a family member, it could be a parent, it could be a supervisor in an early childhood program. So that's kind of one, is the discussion. And then the assignment that they do, that I've been doing for years with my students, is this play poster. And so this play poster is sort of a visual representation communicating the value of play in ECE settings. And so it has specific components, a definition or main characteristics of play, like what it is, a personal philosophy. So that asks the student to do some reflection on why did they think play is important for kids. And those students who have worked in early childhood classrooms might have a little deeper philosophy than those who haven't, and that's okay. And then evidence-based reasons why free play supports the 4 developmental domains, so physical, cognitive, social, and emotional development. And this is an example of student work used with permission. And this is a physical copy. Sometimes in online classes, students choose to do like a digital version of this. But the idea behind creating it, especially the physical copy, is that it's meant to mimic like a bulletin board that you would have in your classroom to help inform guests and visitors, be it families, supervisors, coaches, policymakers, if they're coming to do a tour, anybody who's coming into that space. This is a real life skill practice that students are putting their learning to practical use, bringing their theoretical learning into practical use. So I really like the handmade version of this. And sometimes in my online classes, I go back and forth, and sometimes I will have them do the physical thing. And because the textbook is free, that sort of frees me up to set an expectation that, okay, there's going to be $10 of materials that you're going to need to create this poster in the class. And so that's a materials cost instead of a textbook cost. So that's kind of the way I do it. Let's see, do I wrap it up? Oh, that's it. So that is that. So that's kind of how a lesson could look with this resource.
I just also quickly just want to share just with the lesson plan specifically too, like this really works. The Pressbook would work really well with like a textbook as well too, if you're using a textbook. And that I'm talking specifically about the textbook that I've used is Don't Look Away, embracing anti-bias classrooms. And so this is where that buffet style comes in handy, where you can sort of pick sections from each of the press book that ties in or sort of gives a historical perspective on what that textbook is talking about. And specifically, it's talking about how do we create classrooms where all children feel like they belong, and sort of minimizing Black and brown children being marginalized. And so not even just Black and brown children, but children who are historically and systemically marginalized because of their social identities. But it's a great textbook to sort of align with some of the sections of this press book too. So students sort of get a grounding in the foundational knowledge of early childhood education, and then build on it with this. So just another way, not just a lesson plan, but you can also connect it with other textbooks that are cheaper.
Challenges. I think it's you, Ninderjit.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can do this together. I mean, I think we should sort of race through this too. So one of the things that Angela and I found that, students might use AI, especially with this lesson plan, or even with some of the reading and the prompts as well too. So just to be mindful of that, of students that sort of creeping in, and that it's a reality. And so like, I think as instructors, we do have to think about how are we going to teach appropriate use AI, at the start of our courses, our classes, and sort of let students know. And I know something that I do is I let students know that if you don't need to use AI, because I'm not grading you for how well you wrote this, or write this. This is reflective. It's a critical reflection. It's I statements. It's not a summary of what you read. It's a summary of how you understand it for yourself. And so I let them know that that's not something I'm assessing for, and that you don't need AI. And if they do want to use AI, can they give me the first draft they put in there, and then, and the draft that AI gave? So give me both if that's the route you want to take, because I do know some of our students do want to, there is a particular way of college writing that we all sort of, fall into and sort of expect our students to be able to do. And that's sort of an unconscious or implicit bias that I think many of us have, where we want our students to write a certain way. So I can see for students coming in that English might not be their first language, or, that didn't do well in high school, or whatever it might be, that they feel that AI is something they want to lean on. But just for us to be thinking about how AI might influence the work that students might do as we give these reflective questions, review questions in the chapter as well too. And again, anything that is out there is on AI as well too, right? So if someone says to ChatGPT, summarize chapter 6 in the Pressbooks for Intro to ECE, ChatGPT is going to find this textbook, right? So just know that students, we'll have to be a little creative if we're just asking them to summarize a chapter in the Pressbook. So just that AI will find this and will summarize it in a way that, is very specific to the textbook, and you might not know that it's AI. So thinking about being creative in that. And Angela, I'll let you do the last one.
Okay, so these are couched in the examples from the lesson plan. So if we're talking about that poster assignment, we can, have students present in person or virtually in real time. And that goes with, any assignment really. And these are general challenges that we are facing now as instructors in 2025 is, teaching students how to use AI appropriately, bringing things to in person or doing virtual, like real-time things. Like there's a lot of many strategies that we are all coming up with right now out there to overcome students' use of AI, or to work with it, or whatever your values and approach are with that. One of the things that I didn't put on here is that I've been working with is just sort of appealing to students' better nature. And our profession is different than a lot of other professions. And we work directly with students, with children and families. And you don't really get to use ChatGPT in real time when a parent is standing there saying, why is my 2-year-old biting? You can't really do that. And that's something we did before also when we were just using Google. You wouldn't be able to say that in real time doorway conversations. And so one of the things that I try to infuse throughout the quarter with my students is think about what your life is going to look like as an educator, and how you're going to need to have these answers like on the fly. And let's try to mimic that reality in these 10 weeks that we are together here learning this content.
And
Go
yeah.
ahead.
And as Angela was talking, I was thinking, here's an equity reflection that you can have as well, too. It's like, play equity. Who has access to play, to truly play, right? It doesn't, there's a lot of schools that are in low income, our programs in low income areas that have sort of eliminated, how much time children are outside, or not eliminated, but minimized how much time children are outside. But this is an opportunity to, to have students think about play equity. And also, the new concept that's coming out there is risky play, right? So that's where you can sort of build on some of the stuff that's in this in this assignment, but also in that chapter too. Like, how do you have students sort of think about risky play, and how do you enhance what they understand of play right now, and to build on that. But these are just examples of how you can sort of start somewhere and then continue to build on this, and sort of use it in other classes or stay in intro as well too.
Thank you
Yay,
so
it's time for
much.
questions.
That was awesome. Thank you. I can start off with some of the questions that were in the chat. Um, is this webinar being recorded? Yes, it is. Um, with I didn't write down. Oh, Aaron asks, with all of these online features, what considerations have been made for students who prefer paper textbooks? Example, requiring a print copy for the bookstore. And then Monique answered, Pressbooks offers a PDF version that can be downloaded and printed. And then Megan said printing costs could be paid for with EAG textbooks and instructional material funds. And then Aaron asks, what they're wondering is if students who prefer print are going to lose access to the interactive knowledge checks, vocab pop-ups, and hyperlinks. That's a really good question, Aaron. One of the things that we did in the migration process, so the interactive questions that Ninderjit went through in chapter 7, they are also at the very end of the textbook as well. In the migration process, when we pulled it out, we noticed that it just says this is an interactive element, and then it shares the link to the element, but that's not always the best way. So what I did is that we created this template for our migrators to move all the interactive questions to the back as well. So if a student wants to print out the questions for chapter 1, they can do that. So those are available at the very end of the textbook. And then the vocabulary is also available, similar to a regular textbook. It's available at the end of the textbook. And if anyone has any other questions,
I think Paula had a question of if it is screen reader adaptable and possible Spanish
oh
version in the
yes,
future.
this is Pressbooks is really accessible, friendly, in the way that we migrated this textbook and the way that everything was integrated. We did a lot of accessibility work. I'm sure the authors can attest to it with alt text. So it should be work with all major screen readers, with assuming that everything went through perfectly. And we did have a quality assurance go in, and so it should work well. Okay, and I'll leave it open to anyone else. If anyone has questions, Angela and Ninderjit are here to answer them. And then any that I can answer for like the logistics wise of migration, I'm also here to answer those too. Oh. And what I will do, well, don't be shy. You can ask any questions. I will go ahead and paste the link to the textbook in the chat. And
I think you can also share, I mean, if folks want to share how they've been using the textbook as well too, like
oh yeah.
because Angela and I are not like experts, are the only folks that are using this textbook. So if something came up for you that you're like, oh yeah, I can totally use it like this, please, I think this is a great place to do that. because
I think there are a lot of folks that have been using it more
yeah.
than me. And like when Aaron says for folks who prefer the print copy, that was me for the longest time. I was like, how are we going to get this to the bookstore? We need it to the bookstore. We need a print copy. We want a print copy. We want it to be pretty and look good. Um, and I was the last person to like be won over by the platform. I think I mentioned earlier as well. Like I was just resistant to that way of learning, and I'm converted. I really do think that it's a nice way to engage with the content, and I think it's just what students want. And I think in these times where it's hard to get students to read, and when there are AI tools out there to summarize things for you, having it be as accessible as possible is just such an advantage.
And I just think the way the layout is too, it's not flashy, it's in short sections. And we all know research is how, like lectures should be short, discussion should be long. And I feel like the textbook is also set that way as well too. So it really lends well to how adults learn. And then so the knowledge checks along in there and the immediate links that they can go to, and and also see the definitions right there as well. And I think that's something that we don't often think about when we're in a traditional textbook. You have to go to the back of the page and look up like, what does this mean? And I think especially for folks who are English language learners, to be able to have that right there is really, really valuable. Well, maybe we do this again with ECTPC, Erin.
There is a hand up.
Hi, my name is Manisha and I'm from Canada. I worked at Muscogee's Cultural College and especially with tribes, First Nations in Canada. There is very heavy demand for early childhood development because of high birth rate and young population. My question is, how do you take care of neurodiversity? Like, cocaine babies or FASD and other neurodiversity, in early, like even making it an inclusive atmosphere at day homes, daycares. I have
So I
another
think,
question too.
Oh yeah,
That's
go
my
ahead.
like local context. Like how has this textbook been adopted by other people? How is local context? Because that's the beauty of these open textbooks. We can adapt it to our local context. How has it been adopted? I'm really interested in indigenous, um, you know, reservations, because children are children. Their concept of developmental stages is different. Like what I hear in Muscogees, what I heard is let a child play till at least 6, 7 years. In our current society, we push them into learning formal training. Especially, I'm from India, very fast. All these learning academies are there. So I've asked you multiple questions, and I look forward to hearing your responses.
Thank you for your questions. I just started scrolling through the text because I wanted to find which sections would address your first question. And I think in like the brain development section and early learning environments, and certainly in the child development chapters, not sections, that we would address things like teratogens and early, like you say, like cocaine babies and things like that. Like this sort of thing would be addressed in the child development chapter, in the brain development chapter, and
I think it might
wow.
also, yeah, I think also in the diversity and equity inclusion chapter too, to think about like systemic oppression and how that has impacted communities of color. But I think you would find I think you'd find foundational understanding, Manisha, in those chapters, but you would have to enhance them with additional resources. So that would be like, here's phase one. Like, so you'd have to scaffold students' learning, right? So if you were going to talk about the impact of addiction and what that might happen, and for a child that's born to a mother that might have been addicted or was addicted, you would have to sort of really sort of talk about what Angela mentioned from those chapters. Like, this is what child development looks like. This is the impact that happens. This is what brain development happens. And then I think this is where you can sort of localize it as well too, where you would pull in other additional resources, like like how I share how racism impacts children's development. That's not talked about in the chapter, but we need to understand basic child development, or general child development, and then include or scaffold it to the, how racism impacts it. How does trauma impact it? How does addiction impact it? So that's where you would have to pull in additional resources that would be really specific or intentional to what you hope to learn or help to share with students. And I think with the local context, I think something that I've done in the past is looked at kids count. We have this, Casey, I can't remember the actual organization, but there's this organization that collects data that focuses on children's well-being, and it's called Kids Count. And so often I'll use that to have students look at what's happening in Washington State. There's also the National Center for Poverty that looks at state level numbers as well too. So that's where I would localize it if I've ever used an OER that's not specific to Washington State. So I'm sure up in Canada, I think they do a really good job, I believe, of like having data systems that would be really local. And that might be a place to look for, is like, but this would be a textbook that would be foundational. It has a lot of breadth, but it doesn't have the depth. And that's where instructors get the opportunity to sort of create that depth with additional content. And that's where I think videos come in, like one pagers sort of come in, and if you want to go deeper, additional research articles might come in.
That was kind of a challenge for us
Yeah.
as authors as we were creating this
Yeah.
book, because we do come with a wealth of knowledge, and so many of us wanted to just go very deep, and we had to always, every time we met, we had to kind of reel it in and say, wait a minute, this is an intro level book. We're not going to overwhelm them with all the detailed information. We're going to leave that up to instructors to augment,
Yeah.
or for students to learn that content in future classes, because this is the basics.
And this is also an opportunity to have students co-create. So if students have experiences, this is where they can tell stories and sort of integrate that into the textbook as well too. So that's another area that you could think about. Like, here, we're going to start with the basics. Now, tell me your story, tell me what's happening in your classroom, and tell me what's happening in your community. So like your own personal experience. So you can sort of scaffold it that way as well too. So I think the potential and the customization, or how unique you can make it, is really like valuable.
Yeah, thank you. I do love how you have a structured like key terms, objectives, and chapters, and I do like your like Appendix 5, the glossary, and the knowledge check is fantastic. Now, are you using like other platforms of assessment? These questions are available where students can see their scores. Like sometimes, do I need to copy and paste it, put it in a Google form where I can see overall where my class is, and individually students can see, you know, uh, the knowledge check is in designed like it's in a print form. It's good that it can be printed, copy and pasted in a Word document, but we do digital quizzes and knowledge checks. So my question is, what platform are you using? A digital platform where you can get the results in a learning management system, or I don't know, Mentimeter to do engagement in the class at the end. It can be used by in so many different tools. Have you used it? And what was your experience?
I have not used it, but I like that idea.
Well, we did create the quiz banks.
Yeah,
So we
so
created quiz banks that are compatible with Canvas. We created them in Canvas. And I think Ashley can maybe share more. That's the LMS that they were created for. And I don't know how that works to like migrate them to a different LMS if you have a different one in Canada. But for every chapter, the authors created quiz banks to check knowledge and to give instructors like that feedback. maybe Ashley can
Yeah.
address that one better.
Yeah, I could definitely add to that. So the knowledge check questions are just like questions that a student would just like, go through as they're reading the text just to see where they're like maybe they need to go back and like read something again because they didn't get the question right. The nice thing is that our questions, the way that we had them developed by our authors is that if they answer the question wrong, it gives them a hint. It says like, hey, like go back and read this section or no, not quite right and then explains why the answer, that specific answer is wrong. So then the student can go back. Specifically for the item bank questions, what we are doing right now, we're currently working on like the logistics of, keeping academic integrity, and ensuring that these item bank questions are available to the public, but specifically just instructors. There are 30 questions per chapter. And what we're doing is we're transferring them into, Kaylee, can you remind me the acronym for the
Uh,
item banks?
yeah, the IMSCC file.
It-
Is
We're Yes, we're
oh,
creating them, we're downloading them and putting into the IMSCC files that you can hopefully be able to integrate them into whatever LMS platform that you are using. And so we're going to create a form when we release the item banks and the slide decks, um, that so only instructors will have access to those files. And then we have instructions for how to add them to your LMS. We have instructions for Canvas, but I can imagine that it would be pretty similar for others. And then others probably will also have instructions on how to add those files into your systems. So we do have questions that you can add into your LMS that are safeguarded, only for instructors.
Excellent. I love that you are creating, sharing not just the textbook, but all the supplementary ancillary materials for teachers, for instructors.
Yes.
The slide decks, or have you curated a list of videos too, which you found were really good?
Not a list, but it's piecemeal. So like if somebody really liked a video, then it would be a link in their chapter. But not systematically the same way the slide decks and the quiz banks were created very systematically. The extra resources, supplementary resources such as videos were dependent on the author.
Mhm.
Is your book part of like zero textbook cost course markings? Are you aware? Because I really think it's excellent. You're just giving sort of a full course when you have all these assessment tools or even knowledge checks. Very well done. Thank you. I'm going to use it and promote it. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I do want to say that all the authors that we mentioned earlier too put a lot of work in this. And I think Angela also mentioned this, that when anytime we got together, we met monthly, we checked in and I think, we put time and effort into that. And then when we had to do the questions as well too, we'd put time and effort into every little detail. And so that's important for us, that it's a textbook that is, that it does what we had hoped it would do, and sort of like invite people into early childhood education and set a stage and a foundation for them. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, we did really put our all into it. I mean, I think like our heart and soul, now that you say that, Ninder, like our heart and soul, but we really we made sure that what we were putting out there was something that we believed in and that just not just something to write. It was something that we stood by and that we wanted to be like a reflection of our best experiences and our best work.
Mhm.
Just last question. How much time did you take? Like, you're so passionate about um, your work because you are teaching too. How much time did you put in? Like, when we're passionate, we put in a lot more time because it's your baby. How much, but uh, realistically, how much time did you put in?
I did put in a lot of time. I mean, Ardene's here as well too, so she's got
I
to put a
think our dean left. I think it was, I mean, 2 years really,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it
It was a
was. It was 2 years, but it was the first version, the second version. Maybe Monique can be the answer to that. I don't know. When did we start? A couple years ago.
It was a couple years ago, 2023, I think it might have been, where we sort of planted the seed and then we started working on it. And like I said, we just met monthly. And then we also had peer reviewers for the first one. And then the second one, we just sort of had to enhance it and build on it. And like Ashley said, making sure that was, accessible in all the ways, and that due diligence that was done from your guys's from that team. That was also something that we sort of, had to really sort of factor in and be like, okay, gotta change this, gotta do this. But Manisha, there was a lot of work put in it. And I think just our expertise as well, too, not like we're the smartest people in the room. Then we'd be in the wrong room if we are. But
Then all the state board folks that did all that other stuff that we
yes,
all
exactly.
the editing and all the
All of it.
accessibility things.
Yeah. It was fun. It's nice to see the end product the way it is. And I think it's going to be really valuable as a sort of a starting point for folks who are starting in early childhood education. And who have been doing it for a while might want to co-create and share more on it as well too as students. So I think we've gone over time, but I don't know if we're ending or we can keep staying on. I'm okay with
I don't
that.
know. Ashley is the leader of this. Is there another? Oh, Ashley says about 3 years in all.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
about 3 years because we got an extension, which is why I kept like bugging you all, be like, hey, can we can add this to the textbook because 2 years is just not enough time to just write a full textbook. So then that's where we were able to add the interactive questions, line editing, copy editing, ensuring that everything got integrated into Pressbooks and migrated nicely. And we had QA people double check links, and we'll have directions on if links are broken, um, how to go back and check those links due to, changing in administration. So some links might not be active anymore, but we're working on creating some guidelines for like going back. And there's this website that you can use to go back in time to look at links. And oh yes, Manisha, I'm the current project manager. I kind of came in at the very end of it when everyone was wrapping up their content, and I was just helping with the migration process. And so moving everything into Pressbooks from Google Docs and making sure it looks as pretty as it looks now. And if
Can I
anyone has
ask
any
a
other
question?
questions,
I have a
yeah,
question. You just
yeah.
said, what if links don't work anymore? You have a platform that has a process? Are we going to have that like front and center somewhere on?
Yeah, we're going to include that in the about the textbook.
Okay.
Um, because when we went through the quality assurance process, I had them check links, and I have a
Mhm.
list of those links that are not open or that, links break and things change. So I have a list of those that there wasn't that many for this textbook. But if there was any changes, then there's a website that you can go back in time and look at its like most previous live version, something like that, like archives it. So we'll share directions on that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Does anyone have any other questions for Ninderjit and Angela? Oh, Manisha. No, we didn't have to train our team to use Pressbooks because that was handled on our end. So we contracted out a developer to move the content in. And when I hired the quality assurance people, they were familiar with Pressbooks. So our
Yes. So
our authors just had to write. Oh, and other things with formatting and structures and stuff like that. So we did not have them write in Pressbooks or anything like that. That would have been way too much.
just one last question. Did you have adjunct faculty, adjunct instructors engaged in your project too? Because it's difficult to get that group who's just doing the teaching.
I think when we first started, some of us were adjuncts, I believe. So, and also some that had were retired too, that had retired within that frame. Yeah. So we did have like folks representing different positions. So yeah. So there was an adjunct, a few full-timers, and then also somebody that had just stepped back from their position.
How are you monitoring who's using your textbook, the adoptions or adaptations?
That sounds like might be an Ashley or
Um,
board
yeah.
question.
No, we're not monitoring who is adapting the textbook. It's just open to the public. So anyone and everyone can use it. It's everyone's textbook. it's just open to everyone. It's nice to hear that it's being adopted already, and that I think makes everyone feel really excited, and to see all the hard work and long days, long nights. It's been totally worth it, and just seeing the final product is amazing. But we're not keeping track of who is adopting it. We're just putting it out there for the public and sharing the resources that we have. And this webinar will be online as well. It'll also be in the Canvas shell. That'll be in the Creative Commons. So most of the stuff will be in the Commons of Canvas. So it's open to everyone, minus the item banks. Those are safe kept in a separate folder that will give individual access by an instructor filling out the form. So I guess we will know who's adapting it, because we will have a form of when we release the item bank. So I guess we'll be able to keep track of some of the instructors that are using the textbook.
And I do want to just, I know we're over time, but I do want to say thank you, Manisha, for bringing up your question, your original question about how do we sort of contextualize this textbook for Indigenous, communities and tribes. I think we were thinking about that, but it's just another reminder of the importance of integrating voices that have been historically systemically marginalized. And so this is a good reminder for us. If we do this again, how do we sort of center Indigenous knowledge, and what does that look like in these different
Yes,
foundational
because
areas of early
because
childhood education?
the
Thank you.
their developmental stages are different. Second
Yeah,
is also the concept of permanency, like traditional parenting too, like child, which would come into raising, in ECD2, the cultural practices that a child is loaned to you, and the power of play. Power of play, you've already mentioned. You have a beautiful chapter 7. But maybe they have different, not just storytelling or sitting in a circle. They have different games, play.
and this is where you can sort of and in both, right? Like this is what it might look like in a traditional preschool, but might look like in an Indigenous, and especially for folks. Anyway, I think there's just real opportunities to sort of bring both of those sort of perspectives together and use this textbook as one way. But I also would encourage you to think about writing, gathering other folks that might be teaching in tribal programs, writing a textbook like this that would be beneficial, that would sort of marry and parallel with what we've done with this textbook, and people could use both, right? So anyway, just a thought.
I think
I
there are
know
many
it's just,
opportunities even for reconciliation, to link it, because here in Canada we have truth and reconciliations calls to actions, and from 1 to 6 deals with child development. So there are many possibilities.
yes, many.
I can easily see a chapter slipping in, or
Fun.
adapting it,
Yep.
and looking at the
You could
government
do it.
too. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so much. And in Canada, it's early childhood development is part of your grade 10 to 12. So you get them started early, introduce ECD, um, especially for even adult learners, so they can have it as a profession, because there are many jobs on
Yeah.
on reservations. There are many jobs
Yeah.
to work in ECD, and from ECD, the transition many people do is to education. Then they become teachers. One of the pathways, So
Mhm.
there's heavy demand for this type of content,
Yeah.
even at
And
high school.
and as you said, you can adapt it now, right? I think this is share it widely, Manisha, and say, hey, this needs to be adapted. This is where you can co-create with other teachers and with students as well, too. I'm Canadian, so I totally know all the truth and reconciliation and just some of the work that we're doing to repair the harm that's been done up in Canada. I know that we're slow steps, but yes, thank you for being here with us, and sharing
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Thank you so much, Ninderjit and Angela, for your continuing collaborating with SBCTC, and just this is going to be so awesome. I'm so excited. We'll get this webinar up on YouTube, and then I'll stop the recording now.